The Soviet Union itself is no more.
The United States military has begun strikes.
Light them all up.
Считаю, что для современного мира однополярная модель не только неприемлема, но и вообще невозможна.
Народные республики Донбасса обратились к России с просьбой о помощи. Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
The Russian military is taking chips from dishwashers and refrigerators to fix their military hardware. Russia's industry is in tatters.
Putin is now isolated from the world more than he has ever been.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the DD Geopolitics live show. I am your host, Sans Chris. He just surprised us with a trip to China. It's good to know that air travel is still functioning normally in Russia. It's not in America. But
yeah, at least they still got some gas.
Obviously, I am joined by the one and only former CIA analyst and counterterrorism official, Larry Johnson. It's very good to have you. The day after the anniversary of NATO bombing of Yugoslavia, we are hearing the word balkanize again. We are now on day 26 of Operation Epic Fury or Epstein's Fury, whatever you prefer. How are you feeling today?
Depressed and highly anxious because I'm afraid that as early as Saturday morning East Coast time around 2 a.m. in the morning, maybe late Friday night our time, we will learn that Trump has launched operations to put U.S. forces on Karg Island and on Keshem Island, or Keshem. It's not really an island because it's still connected to the mainland, but it's right there in the Strait of Hormuz, and that we will these operations will be carried out by some of our most elite special operations units, and likely a large number of them will die, and it'll be a complete fiasco. It's going to be launched with the intention of, quote, opening up the Strait of Hormuz, and I don't know who sold Trump, what crazy person convinced him to do this. Some Lindsey Graham would come up with, Keith Kellogg has advocated, Jack Keane has advocated, all these individuals that have distinguished themselves as being perpetually wrong about everything they predict. And this is one of those predictions. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Trump comes to his senses and doesn't do it. But this week has all been it's all been theater. It started Monday morning with Trump's announcement that we're going to do a 5-day ceasefire. We're making some real progress on negotiations.
We'll get to all of that. I want to ask you about all of those things. But firstly, let me ask you about the 15-point peace plan that's supposed to be routed through Pakistan. My apologies. Yeah. Iran's response was that it's extremely maximalist and unreasonable and not even beautiful on paper. The plan reportedly demands the dismantling of Natanz, Fordow, et cetera, et cetera. Is this, what are we doing? Why are we, and even today, Pakistan said, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, well, we're creating a narrative that, hey, we've made some reasonable offers to these Iranians. They just rejected out of hand. So we got no choice but to escalate. That's all it's about. It's not a serious attempt to try to put the fire out on this flaming dumpster fire that the war in Iran has become. And every week it's going to get worse. The economics of this are just starting to play out, and they are disastrous. They are catastrophic, and they are long-lasting damage. So Trump's hope of maybe holding the House and the Senate for midterms, I think the longer this war goes, the less likely that will come to pass. It'll be the opposite. Not that the Democrats have some better vision to offer, but it'll just be.
I don't think they have any vision at all, the Democrats.
Yeah.
Iran says we've gone back and forth all week. Well, actually, it's just kind of Trump going back to back and saying, there's great talks. Let's take a look at what our favorite guy here at the show, Ibrahim Zulfikari, what he had to say. This was last night.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. قدرت راهبردی که از آن دم میزدید تبدیل به شکست راهبردی شده. مدعی ابرقدرتی دنیا اگر میتوانست از این مخمسه رها شود تا حالا شده بود. اسم شکستتان را توافق نگذارید. دوران وعده هایتان به سر رسیده. امروز در جهان دو جبهه وجود دارد، حق و باطل، و هر حق طلب آزاده‌ای تحت تأثیر امواج رسانه‌ای شما اغوا نمی شود. سطح خود درگیری هایتان به مرحله مذاکره خودتان با خودتان رسیده؟ نه خبری از سرمایه گذاری هایتان در منطقه خواهد بود و نه قیمت سابق انرژی و نفت را خواهید دید تا وقتی که بفهمید ثبات در منطقه توسط دست قدرتمند نیروهای مسلح ما تضمین می شود. ثبات از طریق قدرت. صراحتاً اعلام می کنیم تا موعدی که اراده ما نباشد هیچ وضعیتی به روال سابق بر نمی گردد. این اراده زمانی ایجاد می شود که به طور کامل فکر اقدام علیه ملت ایران از اذهان کثیف شما پاک شود. حرف اول و آخر ما از همان روز نخست این بوده، هست و خواهد بود. کسی همچو ما با کسی مثل شما کنار نخواهد آمد، نه حالا و نه هیچ وقت دیگری. و من نصر الا من عند الله العزیز الحکیم.
Us now, Arakchi has confirmed no talks with the United States, no intention to hold talks, and Pakistani officials had said there's no confirmed date or venue for talks in Islamabad because Iran hasn't agreed to talk. Iran put forth its own 5 conditions: halt aggressions, assassinations, mechanism to ensure the war does not resume, war reparations and sovereignty over Hormuz. The U.S. called these ridiculous and unrealistic. Trump says Iran has 4 more days before the U.S. hits their energy infrastructure. What is your read on the state of this ping pong?
Iran, the U.S. is from Mars and Iran is from Venus. They're on 2 different planets.
We'll have to get them that book.
Yeah. It's just there's no agreement yet. The United States is still in this period of denial. The U.S. has been going through the 5 stages of grief, and the first one is denial. No, this isn't happening. No, the world's just fine. We've defeated them, We've defeated them. Iran's asking for a surrender any moment now. And Iran is now, I apologize for the crude term, but it is, I saw a cartoon to this effect. Iran's got the world and Donald Trump by the balls. And, that should get your attention at some point, because it's not just the cutoff of oil, the shortage of oil, the liquid natural gas. I was just looking at an article that whole supply system is now broken, and it is having major impact in Asia, in South Korea, Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, and down to Australia. Major impact. And that's going to ripple effect spread across the planet. Then the fertilizer, good God, 35% of the world's fertilizer is not out there now, not available, and it's planting season. So that's going to be the delayed effect, the fact that some crops don't get planted and don't grow. So when harvest time comes in 6 to 8 months, not much to harvest, which means the world food supply is going to go down. Food costs are going to skyrocket, and price of everything from eggs to beef, vegetables, you're going to go through the roof. So there's going to be a major inflationary spike 6 to 8 months, and then we learn helium. Who knew that they were a major supplier of helium? We're not talking about what you do for the birthday. You swallow the helium and get a high-pitched voice. Okay. This is a critical component in making computer chips. So this is going to mean a slowdown in the creation of computer chips, and whatever those computer chips are going to go into aren't going to be built, not going to be made. And so there's going to be some shortages on that front, and maybe some critical systems not developed. And then there's sulfuric acid. Who knew that there was so much of the petrochemical waste coming out of the Gulf? And it's not going to open. If the U.S. goes ahead with this deployment of forces onto those 2 islands, all it's going to do is get U.S. military personnel killed, and it's going to accelerate Iran's efforts. They will then completely shut down the Gulf. Right now, they've got it on a pay for play. But you're not paying with petrodollars. You're paying with a petro yuan. Yeah. And so the China is getting it. Before, all the money was being sent through the United Arab Emirates. That's banks there. UAE was sitting, they were sitting big and proud and loud, and we're in charge. Nope, that's gone. And 83% of the UAE's economy right now is frozen. They got 25% of their income from oil going out. Well, that's not happening. They got another significant percentage from trade coming into Jebel Ali, which is a free trade port. That ain't happening right now. What about tourism? The planes, I don't know, have you ever flown Emirate Air?
Emirate Air is great, but the Dubai airport is hell on earth.
Yeah. So, but you go hang out in the lounge and business class up. Yeah, it's cool. But those planes are flying in empty and they're coming out full, because the foreigners who make up like 90% of the UAE population are going, I'm getting the hell out of here. We're not sticking around for this. So there are going to be shortages on that front. Construction industry is down. Finance, investment, capital that Dubai is trying to become, kaput, dead. So, we're going to see remaking of that region. And now Iran's talking about, yeah, we're gonna form an alliance of the Gulf states. You want to be part of us? Be a part of our team. If not, you're going to be on the outside, and U.S. won't be here to protect you. So they're not loosening the grip, and they've made it quite clear. If the United States proceeds with this attack that's expected this weekend, and it may get pushed into Monday or Tuesday depending on weather. If the United States goes ahead with that, Iran's going to flood the Persian Gulf with mines, not just at the Strait. The entire Gulf is going to be mined, and so it'll be impossible for ships. They want to stay close to shore and not move. They're going to close the Bab al-Mandab Strait in the Red Sea with the Houthis. Houthis said, okay, yeah, we're up for that. Then they are going to attack, because the UAE is doing this. They're helping the United States in this attack, reportedly, as is Qatar. So Iran just announced a little bit ago, we're going to take out their desalination plants. We're going to cut off their supply of fresh water. That will kill them. That literally will kill them. So this is not de-escalating at all yet. That's going to continue to escalate. And if Trump dares to put those troops, I guess Babylon B said he's found a workaround. He's not going to put boots on the ground. He's issuing the soldiers all Crocs. So he didn't say anything about not putting Crocs on the ground.
It's probably not far from what's actually going on. While you were on the stream with Daniel prior to this, the White House was speaking. So let's check in with we'll see how big Caroline's lips have gotten while we check in with what she has to say today.
Clear that Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding military triumph. More than 9,000 enemy targets have been struck to date. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile attacks and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 140 of their naval vessels, including almost 50 mine layers. This is the largest elimination of a navy over a 3-week period since World War II. Again, let me reiterate, this is the largest elimination of a navy on the face of the planet in a 3-week period since World War II.
But here's what NBC reported this morning. Trump is getting a daily 2-minute video montage. One official called it a series of clips of stuff blowing up. Like just basically a highlight reel of what's going on. And Arakchi also tweeted this while you were just live. He said, he mentions Edward Bernays, pioneer of mass persuasion, served on the Committee of Public Information and worked to help Woodrow Wilson rally Americans for war in Europe. When he and Walter Lippmann met president in 1917, they reportedly said, we could sell the war to the Republic. More than a century later, little has changed, except that now it seems the war is being sold not once, but daily, even to the president himself, through carefully curated videos. You have written reports, you've given briefings. What can we make of all of this?
Arachi is a very smart, savvy guy, and he summarized it effectively. In fact, he knows a little bit more about American history than apparently I do. I didn't recall that part about Walter Lippmann, but I do remember Lippmann was a pretty famous columnist at one point. But you're actually absolutely right about how the American public was sold on World War I. George M. Cohan was they created that song over there, over there, that was. It became, manipulating public opinion. That was really sort of, let's call that the start of the downfall of the American Republic. We got roped into going to a war in Europe that we didn't need to be involved with at all. Should have kept out of it. Instead, we went and got about 150,000 of our guys killed in a short period of time. Most of the casualties were from the flu. So we'll blame Mother Nature. But this kind of delusional reporting on numbers, you're not old enough to remember the Vietnam War. I am. And that was very reminiscent of the kinds of briefings that were given by Robert McNamara, who at the time was the Secretary of Defense. Oh, we killed X number of Vietnamese and X number. And what started happening was, because the command pressure was to produce good news, the guys at the bottom started making up numbers or lying. I think another term for it is lying. And so they had this big lie about how many, they'd killed 300% of the Vietnamese. And so people who weren't good at math would go, oh, okay. That's saying, no, that's impossible. And that led to the big surprise at the Tet Offensive in 1968, where the CIA analyst, Sam Adams, a real name, with his boss, a guy named George Allen. And I was fortunate that when I joined the agency, the instructor for my new analyst course was George Allen. So he was a legend. But, they kept trying to tell the truth and kept getting shut down by the White House and by the Department of Defense. So we're seeing another one of those. And so Trump has been told, man, these guys, they're not, all we got to do is just put troops on those islands. And man, the war is over. And I think, Trump has really been persuaded to believe that. And if they do it, you're going to have significant casualties, because let's assume that the assault force is going to be about 2,000. Let's say maybe even 2,500. Hell, let's make it 5,000 at Keshem Island, which is down there right at the big turn in the Strait of Hormuz. There are 150,000 people on that island. Let's assume that they're armed. So 5,000 against 150,000. This is not the movie 300, where the Spartans stood up against the Persian army. This is quite different. They're going to be killed. And if the local inhabitants don't get them, the drones, the missiles, that'll get them. And so it's going to be, they'll be in an untenable situation. And then how do you rescue them? Once they come under fire, how do you evacuate them? Because you can't just send a ship in to pick them up, because that ship's going to be sunk. So it's very possible within the next week that Trump is going to get a hard dose of reality, and then he'll be looking for scapegoats. And
he's already looking at Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth, he's already looking at him like it's going your way.
I'm willing to make a bet that one of the people he's going to blame for the debacle will be Tulsi Gabbard.
She's an easy one too. Nice.
You didn't tell me the truth.
Yep.
So there'd be some rich irony in that too. She will have deserved it. She had the chance to speak up, to walk out, to say, hey, I'm not going to be part of this farce. I'm not going to contribute to the deaths of Americans, much less Iranians. But no, she decided, I like the job too much. I'm going to perform unnatural sexual acts in order to stay in this position. Sorry.
Position is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yeah.
Speaking of bad positions, I think while you were streaming this morning, an F-18 got caught in a pretty bad position. Let's take a look. More embarrassment for the United States. They said false. The IRGC announced a U.S. F-18 fighter was struck over Chabahar using new advanced air defense systems. True. No U.S. fighter aircraft have been shot down by Iran. So was it a hit?
Well, I could see CENTCOM lying about this for one reason. If you're going to send out a combat search and rescue team, a CSAR, you don't want to admit, oh yeah, we got a pilot down, we're looking for him. No, nothing to see here. Go look for him.
That's what happened the last time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they did lie about the KC-135. I know for a fact that got shot down. That they tried to explain it. Oh, these two planes collided, and that's what brought it down. No, this was not pilot error. This wasn't flying together. One got shot down, and one barely got away.
Yeah.
That's what
your conclusion was the same as ours then. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So they have lied in the past about that. But we'll give them another day or two to see if the pilots recovered, if they'll come clean and say, yeah, it was shot down, but we got the pilot out. And I don't fault it. If that's why they're lying about this, I don't fault them for that at all. That's
so for OPSEC purposes.
Yeah.
Well, let's. Okay, so Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament speaker, just posted this. Based on some intelligence reports, Iran's enemies are preparing to occupy one of the Iranian islands with support from one of the regional countries. Our forces are monitoring all enemy movements, and if they take any step, all the vital infrastructure on that regional country will be targeted with relentless, unceasing attacks. You mentioned obviously the desalination plants. One of our viewers has said that maybe the Karga Island is in its entirety is a decoy, and that they may go for somewhere like Balochistan. We saw the plane flying over Chabahar, which is close to Balochistan. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, how does that get the Strait of Hormuz open? It doesn't.
That's true.
I mean, does
anything get the Strait of Hormuz open?
Well, I mean, from just a military objective. Oh, we got troops in Balochistan. Great, it's a wasteland. Okay, you're 2,000 miles from the capital of Tehran. You're there on the border with Pakistan and Afghanistan. The Baluchis, CIA has worked with the Baluchis for, good God, 60 years at least. So, I mean, I remember during the first attempt to rescue the hostages back in 1980, I was friends with one of the guys from what was called ISA, later called Task Force Orange. Anyway, it was a top secret military unit that basically the military's version of the CIA in terms of case officers. They were getting messages in and out of Iran from a rug merchant in Bethesda, Maryland. It was called Parvizian. And Parvizian was literally I lived behind Parvizian at the time on Strathmore Street. The messages came in rolled up in rugs that were coming from Balochistan. So that was how the CIA was communicating on the hostage issue. So, you take this area. So what? I mean, it doesn't weaken Iran. Would just mean, the United States will get bogged down in a war that it can't win.
It's Mary Peltola.
Yeah. So, the objective's got to be, I don't think they're just talking idly, but again, taking Karg Island, that doesn't open the Strait of Hormuz either. All that does is temporarily disrupt some of Iran's oil production. And you've seen the numbers on that, right? I've done this so many times today, I don't want to repeat myself, but before the war started, Iran was pumping 1.1 million barrels a day, and they were selling it at $47 a barrel. Since the war, after the war started, they're now pumping 1.5 million barrels a day, and they're selling it at $97, $98 a barrel, more than double the price. Iran's looking at this and this war thing's not working out too bad, at least on the oil front as far as profits go. And the other thing is you got to step back and ask yourself, so we had all these oil sanctions on Iran. Why? Well, they're a dangerous country and we got to punish them. We got to make them submit to our will. Okay. And we're lifting the sanctions. Why? Well, we're running out of oil, and if we don't lift those sanctions and have enough oil on the market, the gas prices in the United States, which are already increasing, are going to increase even faster. And we got to figure out additional ways for Donald Trump to talk down the price of oil and talk up the price of stocks so that we don't have a complete financial crisis. Oh, I see. Which is why they also lifted the sanctions on Russia.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Saturday, markets close. That's when Trump threatens the 48 hours to open Hormuz, or he obliterates. And then Monday, we get the delay that you mentioned in the beginning of the episode. So 5 days lands on Friday. Are we just doing war by stock market, or
no? Actually, I think this was planned. This is not something that just developed over the weekend. And why do I say it's planned? When you look at this was published on what is the Intel Frog, or is it the Frog Intel? It's one of those. It's on X, and then there's another one called OSI Int Defender, Open Source Intelligence Defender. They note that starting March 12th, you started getting a massive movement of C-17s, which are the planes designed to carry big loads of either personnel. They can carry up 104 military personnel that are with combat loads, or they can move helicopters, they can move artillery pieces, they can move even bigger. I think they can move a tank. And they started, when you looked at the bases that they were going to, Hunter Army Airfield in Georgia. Well, what's there? 160th Special Operations Air Regiment, known as the Night Stalkers, Special Tier 1 Unit. 75th Rangers, 1st Battalion. They're at Hunter. The planes were also taking off and landing, picking up and taking off to go to the Middle East from Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington. What's there? 75th Rangers, 2nd Battalion. And what are those two Ranger battalions? They support SEAL Team 6, Delta Force. Well, where's the plane taking off from? Oh, Pope Army Airfield, which is right, JSOC headquarters is right next to it. So you've got the movement there, and that's Delta Force and 82nd Airborne. Then you got the planes flying into Fort Campbell. Well, what they're doing there? They're picking up the actual helicopters from the Special Operations Air Regiment. So what you see is there's now been 46 of these flights, moving a massive number of soldiers and equipment into 3 bases. 2 of them are in Jordan. 1 of them is in Israel. This is all open source. I mean, I'm not divulging. Maybe it should be classified information, but I'm not the one to put it out there. This is out there, and it's available for the world to read. Which I wonder if there are Iranian or Russian or Chinese intelligence analysts who are reading that, going, holy smokes, look at this. So, in my experience, you don't get these kinds of movements. There's only 2 reasons for it. Either you're doing an exercise, which I don't see any evidence of an exercise, particularly since we know that the 82nd Airborne was supposed to be doing an exercise, and that got canceled because it got real world mission. Okay. So if it's not an exercise, it's mean there's a real world deployment going on for a real world operation. Now you start running down the list of what could they do. Could they possibly go into the interior of Iran? Not really, because when those helicopters have about anywhere from the little birds can fly 250 miles, about 2 hours. The Chinook 47s or the UH-60 Blackhawks, they can fly maybe 400 or 500 miles. But to fly, to get into the interior of Iran, where some of the nuclear plants or locations are, it would push them to their limit. So that means you'd have to do like we tried in Operation Eagle Claw back in 1980, where they flew in bladders of gasoline and parked them in a desert so that when the helicopters came flying in, they could refuel. And while refueling, one of the helicopters ran into one of the planes, killed a bunch of guys. I have a friend actually who was on that mission back then. He was a young Ranger. So I don't think that's likely. I think the most likely scenario is they're going to go, if they forward base at somewhere like Al Udeid or at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, or maybe at in the United Arab Emirates, then they can quickly fly. You do 2 different assaults. and then we'll say, "Oh, look at what a great thing we did," but then those guys are trapped because Iran's got the ability to just shell the hell out of them and hit them with drone after drone after drone. That's what we've seen happen in Ukraine. That's one of the reasons the Russians have moved and advanced very slowly, because if you mass a bunch of guys together, they become perfect targets for drones. So this is, and if they escalate in that way, just like the piece you just read, then Iran's going to retaliate, and they'll fully mine the Persian Gulf. They're going to take out the desalinization plant. They're going to take out the power plant in the UAE. Then the UAE is really screwed. It'll be dead as a country. And then they're going to block Bab al-Mandab. And then what does Trump do? Because now he's got a bunch of dead soldiers and sailors on his hand, and Marines. And then now the American public is outraged that they were put into a situation where they were killed unnecessarily. And I don't think this will be enough to outrage the American public to say, "Yeah, let's go to war with Iran." Again, what are you going to do beyond what we're doing right now? That means you would have to have a draft. You're going to have to full up draft, mobilize. You're going to need about a 2 to 3 million man army minimum if you're going to try to take them on the land and defeat them militarily, because you can't defeat them from the air. And we can't put our ships close to shore because they get shot at and sunk. I mean, this is the worst possible mess you could create.
Well, there's still more of a mess next door in Iraq. So let's take a look at what's going on in Iraq.
Yeah.
Iraq's National Security Council just authorized PMF to exercise right of self-defense against U.S. forces. Let's take a look.
وفي ضوء الاعتداءات غير المبررة والانتهاكات الجسيمة للسيادة العراقية واستهداف مقار الأجهزة الأمنية الرسمية، قرر المجلس ما يأتي: أولاً، المواجهة والتصدي للاعتداءات العسكرية التي تنفذ من خلال الطيران الحربي والمسير التي تستهدف المقار والتشكيلات الأمنية الرسمية لهيئة الحشد الشعبي وباقي تشكيلات قواتنا المسلحة بالوسائل الممكنة وفق مبدأ حق الرد والدفاع عن النفس.
By all means necessary. Then the United States and Iraq agreed to a ceasefire to help facilitate the evacuation of Victoria Base. Victoria Base was evacuated, but during the course of that ceasefire, the United States hit the Iraqi army. Just so our viewers understand, the PMF is still part of the Iraqi army. It is the Popular Mobilization Forces. But today, the United States broke that interim ceasefire to bomb the actual Iraqi army. 13 wounded, 7 killed. They hit a clinic and an engineering unit at Habaniya Air Base in Anbar. Baghdad called it a blatant violation of sovereignty. I do want to show our viewers this wonderful video of the base at Victoria from the Iraqi resistance. Take out a Black Hawk down. Are we at war with Iraq again? What are we doing?
Yeah, no, hey, this has expanded, and now Iran has a new ally in this war, and so this gives another, if you will, vector of attack. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Russia and Iraq expand their ties, as well as the Chinese, and move into providing Iraq with some upgraded military equipment. Yeah, no, this is going every which way wrong that the United States could have it go wrong. And the Gulf Arabs are going to realize very quickly that they're isolated. They don't, they have no good options. So they had bet the house that the United States would have their back, United States would protect them. Now they're finding out, unless they're Jewish and living in Israel, you ain't going to get that protection.
Well, the settlers in Israel aren't getting any protection. I had an interview today that I saw. An Israeli mayor in the north said the government isn't protecting them, and Hezbollah has been firing roughly 100 rockets a day since March 2nd. The IDF chief says the Hezbollah fight has just begun. Mm-hmm. What does it tell you when Israeli civilians are publicly saying their government has abandoned them in the middle of a war that their government started?
Yeah, you got some political problems at home. Bibi Netanyahu's not as popular as he once was, and again, this is Israel overreaching. They've learned no lessons from the past. They invaded southern Lebanon in 2006. They've got their eyes set on where they wanted to occupy and take all the territory south of the Litani River, and they believed their own propaganda that they had decimated Hezbollah. Hezbollah was weak, and they could just roll over them. And Hezbollah's doing what they did in 2006. They're in bunkers. They've got hidden ambush positions. They let the Merkava's tanks come into range, and then they blow them up. And so Israelis are suffering more casualties now per day than they did going into Gaza, because Hezbollah is far better equipped and armed and more powerful weapons. And it was last Thursday, Hezbollah fired like rockets for 4 hours that were, the David Sling and Iron Dome turned out to be not available. They were otherwise occupied.
I did want to ask you, we talked about it on my last episode about this Israeli sort of backed think tank, FDD. A few people on Twitter discovered that FDD, this is the Foundation for Defending Democracy, which is it used to be called Emet, which is Hebrew for truth. Now, what we discovered, and I want to show you this because this is from a whitehouse.gov document, the FDD and the White House Gov side by side. It's a little small, but I just want to show you and our viewers basically the copy paste, and then I want to get your thoughts. This foundation basically wrote this in 2025, right before the start of the 12-day war, and the White House lifted it and pasted it onto whitehouse.gov, stating this was our justification for going to war. How reminiscent is this of 2003, just lifting from clean break or PNAC or anything like that? Yeah. Are we just being driven once again by neocon Israeli-backed think tanks into another war?
Yeah, well, plus that document, the Israeli document, is filled with lies. Al-Qaeda backed by Hezbollah. Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. That's bullshit. Al-Qaeda is Sunni. Hezbollah is Shia. And what sprung out of Al-Qaeda was ISIS. They attack the Shia. In fact, the evidence shows that 90% of the suicide bombs since 1990s have been carried out by Sunni-backed groups, not by Shia. In fact, Hezbollah did some suicide bombings or attributed to them in the 1980s, but they realized that was an ineffective tactic. But more importantly, also Hezbollah never really was big on attacking civilian targets. They were attacking military targets, hence they get blamed for the Marine barracks. Alistair Crook, who was over there at the time, says, no, that was a mall. It wasn't It wasn't Hezbollah. Hezbollah was created in 1982. Amal was created in 1972. So predated it. This effort to demonize and claim Hezbollah as the number one sponsor of terrorism, all these Iranian-backed groups, it's just not true. We'll go through I'd take anybody through the actual incidents if they want to, but this is just more propaganda. Like you said, it's being done to gaslight the American public, being done to convince the American public that Iran represents this tremendous threat. They're murderers. They want to kill Americans. Yet, we discussed, and if I'm repeating myself, stop me, because I've done so many of these today.
I don't.
Some of the same stories over. I don't want to be that old guy telling you the same story over and over. And you're going, oh my God, tell him to shut up. But, the United States backing of Saddam Hussein back in 1980, started in 1980, with Saddam attacking Iran, with our behest, with our encouragement. And then we proceeded under Ronald Reagan to provide chemical weapons that the Iraqis used against Iran. They launched between August of 83, August of 88, they launched 20 chemical weapons, and it killed tens of thousands of Iraqi soldiers. And out of that war, which we backed, it killed over 300,000 Iranians. And then to top it off, we were Colonel Patrick Lang was hand carrying the intelligence to the Iraqi army to use against Iran. So we've been involved with attacking Iran since the 1980s, not the other way around. And then we wonder, we are directly responsible for the deaths of over 300,000 Iranians. And then people ask this puzzling question: well, why do they chant death to America? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because we helped kill 300,000 of them. And they certainly haven't come close to killing 300,000 of us. And in fact, Iran has never carried out a single terrorist attack inside the United States against us. Never. However, the United States, through the Mujahideen al-Khalq, has carried out multiple assassinations and terrorist attacks inside Iran. We're the terrorists, not them.
Yeah, you mentioned the MEK. I won't get into it, but I just want to tell our viewers that you just did a show about it with one of our colleagues. I shared it on my personal profile if you guys want to go check that out. MEK, I don't want to get into detail now because it's all the details are totally in that interview. You guys should go check that out. So last question, you're CIA. You were CIA. One CIA, always CIA. Right?
I hear that. I go, gee, I wish I'd still get the paycheck.
That was true, right?
Where's the paycheck?
Well, what would you be telling, from an intelligence perspective, what is the off-ramp to this for the United States regime? What would you be telling the executive?
Accept our beatings, accept the lumps, pull out. And, what needs to be done is tell Israel, we're done with your expansionist program. So we're no longer going to fund you and arm you so that you can continue attacking Lebanon and attacking the Palestinians. That's going to stop. And we're going to withdraw our troops from the Gulf, because otherwise, if we don't, this war is going to drag on. We're going to get deeper involved until the point it will become so costly to us that we will then have to withdraw. But only by then there will be thousands of Americans dead, probably American soldiers dead, and our economy will be in real serious trouble. The last time we experienced stagflation in this country was in the 1970s, following our collapse in Vietnam. When we had spent all this money on the war in Vietnam that turned out to be a defeat. And so because we had spent so much money, we came off the gold standard, inflation was going up, and the economic growth was going down. That's stagflation. And we're coming right into that right now. So it is, Trump needs to make a deal with Iran, and a deal that does not include Israel. But he can't do it because he's too beholden to he's bought and paid for. And so this is going to end in a car wreck. So, you tell somebody the driver's impaired, they've drunk 2 bottles of scotch, Don't let him drive. Don't get in the car. But it's my brother. I got to ride with him. Well, you drive. No, you let him. And next thing you know, you get the car wreck and you're dead. I think that's where we're headed.
What do you kind of make of the sort of some of the influencers, not a lot, but a few people have sort of tried to give Trump an off-ramp and saying Israel dragged him into this. And I really think that that's incorrect. I think Trump went willingly, although I do also think that he's bought and paid for regardless.
Sure.
But I don't think that he's being dragged kicking and screaming.
Oh, no. He went willingly along. Of course, one of my predictions is when this turns sour and turns bad, he's going to look for scapegoats. Now, the most logical scapegoat will be Pete Hegseth. But I also think that one that's going to get blamed will be Tulsi Gabbard. That'll be some sweet irony. And he'll blame her. You didn't tell me. You didn't warn us. And the fact is, I think she tried, but she didn't do it with enough courage of conviction.
No chutzpah. She needs chutzpah.
Or as Michelle Bachmann calls it, chutzpah.
One last question, a super chat, and now I want to know too. We are committing what is basically amounting to could be a potential genocide. Right now, it's a crime against humanity against Cuba.
Yeah.
We have maybe Russian ships on the way to try to break this blockade. What do you think will happen down there? Bay of Piglets, we're calling it. Maybe Bay of Pigs 2.0.
Yeah, so you got to step back and say, okay, what exactly are we trying to accomplish? So we want to get a change of government, okay? Then we're going to start economically supporting them, because they're not going to do change of government without a paycheck at the end of that. The problem with Cuba, while we've basically left it alone now for 66 years, 67 years, doesn't have, it's got great cigars. It's got good rum and bananas. Other than that, it's not a natural resource spot. It's a nice beach spot, but it's not the only island in the Caribbean. So, this is going to be like taking on a dependent relative. Your cousin that's broke and he's moved in to live with you, and then all of a sudden, he brings along problems with problems. All of a sudden, now you got to take care of them.
Right.
Yeah, I think, despite all the passion of the Marco Rubio and the other Cubanos living in Miami. Conozco la gente, as they say. It's going to fall by the wayside. The United States has got itself a major dumpster fire going on with Iran, and the economic spillover from that, we're only beginning to see the start. They're doing everything possible to pretend that it's not happening, and we're at that stage. You remember the movie with Leslie Nielsen, the actor? Was a Police Story?
Police Academy?
No, it wasn't Police Academy. It was the other one, but it was the other one where at the end, this
wasn't that hot? Like top? Not what was that? Like, oh my God, I can't remember. Go ahead, Les.
But you see, he's standing. This missile has gone into this factory. It's exploding.
Naked Gun.
Yeah, Naked Gun. That's it. So. There's explosions going off and fire and bullets shooting, and he's standing there telling people, "Move along, nothing to see here, nothing to see here."
Yes, with the hands out. We got to put Trump's face on that.
And that's Trump and Bessent right now. Nothing to see here. We are winning. Oh my God, we've won so much. We have defeat. Look at we destroyed their navy, and you go, they really didn't have a blue water navy.
Yeah.
So they do use what are called bog hammer speedboats that are in secluded caves, and we haven't destroyed those. They've got submarines, which we haven't destroyed. But we destroyed their Air Force. Yeah, they never saw themselves as an Air Force kind of group. They've always relied upon the missiles. They said, hey, we can fire missiles, and if they get shot down, you don't have to send out a bunch of people in a helicopter to try to rescue a pilot, like the CENTCOM may be doing right now, trying to rescue a pilot for that F-18. So Iran is, and then with what our favorite press spokeswoman for the White House said, oh, they're firing 90% fewer missiles. Well, not really.
No.
Because they've now depleted U.S. and Israeli air defenses, that they are no longer viable. They don't have to fire as many because they fire fewer, they get through. And they've on their, I think the last number, they're on their 81st wave.
Yes.
So each wave of rockets, 10, 20, 30, and each wave, well, let's just say it's 20 per wave times 80, 1,600. And that means if every one of those missiles was shot down by a Patriot missile, that means you'd need 3,200 Patriot missiles. Well, guess what? The total number of missiles, Patriot PAC-3 missiles produced since 2015, 4,620. So we're talking that in the space of just 4 weeks, if and this isn't the case, but if Israel had all those Patriot missiles, if they had 3,600 or 3,200 Patriot missiles, they would have already fired them all and they'd be out. So they're depleted.
Yeah, the EU Defense Commissioner came out yesterday and said in the first 5 days of the Iran war, they fired 800 Patriot missiles. The entire annual U.S. production is 750.
Yeah, in one day. But we've seen the same pattern in Ukraine. And I'm sure I imagine you've talked to Ted Postal, had him on your show, or if not, you should, just so he can discuss that. Look, these shoot down rates that are claimed by Israel, by the United States, by Ukraine, they're lies. It's not 90%. It might be 5%. But so Iran now has the luxury of it's picking and choosing the targets it wants. It's hitting targets throughout the Gulf, and it's hitting targets in Israel, and is now focused on Dimona, where the nuclear facility is for Israel, and on the Israel's military air bases like Nevatim.
Well, Larry, I want to let you go because I bet you have another show to island hop to, or maybe I'm the last one.
I saved the best for last.
Oh, Larry, my heart. Okay, well, I will still let you go.
All right, throw me out. Get on.
Go catch up on the F-18, figure out what went on there, maybe get an intelligence report to Trump somehow. But other than that, Larry, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you again soon, I'm sure.
Sarah, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Let me get through some of these super chats. Larry, this shirt is my favorite. Larry's fantastic. We'll start. I've been yelling at the guys for more guests. So we'll keep pushing for more of these names. We have a special show tentatively for you guys on Sunday. Big surprise. I just can't tell you who they are yet. Thank you, Max, for your support. Stoshik, my brother, thank you as always. And Uncle Haas. It's always good to see Larry. It's always good to see you too, Haas. Well, they are listened to, but not by the right people, I guess. And Austin, thank you so much for your question and that reminder. That was a really great answer that Larry gave, and I was happy to ask that question. I'll ask the Colonel. I would really love to have John Mearsheimer or Victor Gao, but we will see what we could do. Regardless, Sunday is not John Mearsheimer or Victor Gao, but it is someone probably right now just as important. And so hopefully you guys will tune in on Sunday. Chris is up in the air. Wish him safe travels with his boot. Enjoy the rest of your week. Catch me in the spaces. And we will not be having Professor Zhang on right now. He is way too controversial right now anyway. Maybe we'll wait till all that dies down. But yes, yes, I will get a picture of that post. I will post that on. I do love that shirt, Mickey. One of the shirts on our store, ddgeopolitics.com/shop. That's the Shahed shirt. Mickey's talking about this beautiful piece of original art. It's peace doves in Iranian colors. So go to ddgeopolitics.com/shop and check it out. It's free shipping anywhere in the world, no tariffs because we are not Trump, and no taxes. I pay your taxes. Isn't that nice of me? Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week again. And I will see if I can contact Andrei Martynov. Till next time.